Oh, I muted myself. Excellent. This is starting out perfect. I think I fixed it. Yay. So I have no idea how many folks are going to show or if this is going to be me talking to myself for a couple hours. But if it is, you know what? I have fun talking to myself all the time. That's why I'm an author. So it'll be fine. But I am going to give it a couple minutes to let folks filter in and join us before I start doing much. But welcome. I am so excited to be able to launch my book. I've done a bunch of book launches, but never one for myself. So this is super exciting. Hey, Jeff. I see you. So yeah, that's the plan. I do have some giveaways planned. I'm gonna do a book reading. I've got some Q&As. I've got a watercolor thing that I'm gonna be working on during some of this, so something interesting to watch other than just me on the screen, because as fabulous as I am, that could get old fast. So that's kind of where we're at. I have no idea how many people are viewing. So hello, hey Lead, it's nice to see you. Glad you could join me. I know it's super late for you. And a very special surprise coming up. Okay, that's news to me, so I think Jay is plotting against me, which is on brand, because he's my husband. If you are here, if you're in the chat, introduce yourself. If I don't know who you are, I recognize two of the screen names already, but if anybody else wants to say hi, I will gladly interact with you a little bit before I start doing some intro stuff. The people I see here are just 2 a.m. Okay, yeah, that's fair. The people I do see here, I recognize. And yes, Jason Felt is my husband and moderator, and I'm going to have a second moderator in. His name is Avernus, just in case a lot of folks show up and I can't really watch the chat all the time. Oh, I see a Jace Carter. That you are, Jeff. Ugh. JP Nielsen down there is in my Pathfinder game every week, and yeah, it's exciting, let me tell you. He is a better Pathfinder player than me, and he is playing an Arcanist, so he's answer to everything is, I've got a spell for that. Every time. Without fail. Every single time. Which, you know, is fun. That's okay. I've been DM for a few years. He's going to be DM soon, so. I am going to get rolling with kind of my plan here, just so this doesn't get super boring just watching me talk about nothing. So if you don't know who I am, I'm E. I'm really excited to be here. I am the author of the novel Fallen, which came out today. It is an urban fantasy novel, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about in a couple minutes. My background is a lot of things. I went to college for European history, so I'm a giant history nerd. I do historical reenacting. It's a lot of fun. I mostly get to stab, it's an excuse to stab people in the face, if I'm honest, and not go to jail for it. I get to do that. Hey, Linda. Yeah, glad to meet you. Okay, hi, Mom. So that is, you know, I do a lot of things. I have a lot of hobbies. I spin, I crochet, I do a bunch of stuff. In addition to that, I have been an editor for over a decade now and worked for a number of different companies, and I've been in the book industry for a long time, but this is my first novel that I've launched. I've put out short stories before, but I'm really excited about this because as much as I love short stories, for me, they aren't where my heart is, so this is like, it feels real. Hi, Linda, Janice, and Nicole. It's nice to see you. Oh no, don't ban them. So yeah, I also play D&D a lot, which you'll probably get an idea of because one of my giveaways is D&D related. And there are a couple of giveaways going right now, so I am going to mention those. Let me, Jay, can you throw in the link for the chainmail dice bag giveaway and to the ebook giveaway? So I want to give people as much time as possible to get in on those. You don't need to buy the book to join that. All you have to do is sign up for my newsletter. If you're already signed up for my newsletter, then just click through and follow the instructions, and obviously you'll be good to go.
About the bag and which one?
The ebook. So that is that's who I am, and that's sort of what we're doing here. So, as far as the book goes, most of the folks here, you probably know about it already if you're here, but it is an urban fantasy novel set in Boston, Massachusetts. And the elevator pitch is more or less a fallen angel figuring out how to live in the world while also solving a murder for which she is being blamed. It is very fast paced. I've heard a lot of people say they really like the fact that it's really tight paced. If I was to compare it to some other things, I would say it's probably the Dresden Files meets Netflix's Bright meets Lucifer, if I'm honest. It's sort of, maybe some supernatural thrown in there, but it's sort of like a collection of those things. And I went the angle of magic is everywhere and it's commonplace, so nobody is hiding what they are. You're going to walk down the street and see a centaur walking next to an ogre having a conversation with a fairy, and somebody's going to be, I saw this prompt that I really liked at one point. It was talking about how a Fey barista could give you a shot of confidence for an interview in your coffee, and I liked that. My husband has been instrumental in helping me come up with pretty much everything. He's helped me come up with the world and the characters and all sorts of things. And he's really been with me through all of this, and a lot of this is his brainchild, and we're kind of hoping that he's gonna put out a couple books in the series that I have planned too, because there's some characters that are near and dear to his heart whose stories he really wants to tell. So I'm, yeah, exactly. He's got several characters in the series that are his, and he has some stories he wants to tell, so I'm trying to, write the book. But we'll see. Either way, that's kind of, if I were going to put all the pieces together, that's it. The main character in this novel, her name is Cassiel, and she is an angel who guarded one of the gates of heaven. The character is actually non-binary. She uses female pronouns, but is non-binary because a number of the angels, including, like, let's say cherubim, they don't really have anatomy conducive to gender so much, and since they don't reproduce sexually, most of the angels are some flavor of non-binary, and if they are binary, it's by choice. So Cassiel actually is non, and doesn't really understand how that works, because it's just never been in her world. I have a number of LGBTQ and disabled characters in the series, because those are things that really matter to me. They are very important in my life because I'm also non-binary and I'm also disabled, so I like having representation for people who look like and sound like and are like me. And they're just individuals, and also in a setting where you have all these fantasy creatures, like I have it that dryads reproduce with pollen and dancing, so so that's it's just a thing. It's going to be a fun thing, so I'm really looking forward to exploring some of that in future books. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask before I move on? Because I've got a section of the book that nobody who hasn't gotten an advance copy has read yet. And I'm going to be doing a reading of that next, so... yeah, it makes sense to me, because, I mean, they don't reproduce that way, so... Kinda, I also have it that dwarves don't really reproduce that way either. That's gonna be a fun thing. And yeah, Cassiel, when she's fallen, and when angels fall, they're usually assigned a physical sex that just coincides with them, or is assigned to them, more or less, if an angel falls. So that is why she has some female aspects, but that's why she's told she's female, so she's like, I guess this is me. So I'm actually, before I do the reading, I'm going to give a shout out to the giveaways, and I actually want to show the first one. So I'm going to switch views here. There we go. And this is one of the giveaway items, actually. And you're getting a preview of the watercolor I'm going to be working on. But this right here is a chainmail dice bag. It holds probably about 10 standard sets of dice, so 7 dice. It was made by my husband. This is stainless steel, so it's heavy. This is like, this will survive probably the apocalypse, if I'm honest. And it has the angel wing charm on it, in reference to the book, and of course the white cord. And he did this really pretty bronze accent on it. So this is going to be available as a giveaway for people in the US, largely because shipping outside here can get really expensive really fast. I'm sorry. There are other giveaways for other folks. But I did want to show this off because my husband worked really hard on it, and this is beautiful. It's excellent. And I'm really excited to show it off. Also, yes, it's butted, not riveted, because riveting for a dice bag is excessive. And since this isn't meant to defend you from anything except maybe losing your dice, we just go with butted because it would be excessive. Also, since you're seeing my hands, shout out to my sisters for doing my manicure. This one came off because I'm a dingus, that was my fault, but they do really pretty nail stuff, and their group is Nat20 Nails. You'll find them on Facebook, and they're a lot of fun. So thank you very much to my sisters for doing that. Oh, there's a spammer. Stab it. So that is one of the things I'm giving away. One of the other giveaways is an ebook copy of my novel, which is available to anybody, anywhere in the world, because that doesn't cost me shipping. And there's going to be one more surprise giveaway that I'm going to show a little bit later. Hello! So keep tuned for that, but there's going to be one more giveaway that I'm not ready to announce yet. But yes, these are the 2 first ones. So chainmail dice bag and my ebook. And the only thing that you have to do is sign up for my newsletter. And if you don't like my newsletter, you can obviously unsubscribe later, but I kind of hope you don't. My newsletter contains, I have 2 kind of flavors of it. One is for authors, where I talk about the craft of writing and give writing advice. And the other one is for readers, and I talk about, my personal things, and through both of them I'm going to be sharing photos and parts of my journey and short stories and other fun things in there. Or you can sign up for both of them. It's a single email, so you won't need to get spammed, but that is all I request for folks to join the giveaways. So, and following me on social media will get you a little bit extra, but really the newsletter is the thing that's gonna enter you into that. So I'm really excited. I'm going to get into the reading. There's Avernus. Hello. So I'm going to get into the reading that I promised, and this is out of chapter 15. And nobody who has not gotten an early copy has heard this yet, so you are some of the first people to be able to encounter this. "Hey, that is enough!" I yelled, opening my wings as wide as I could. I don't remember where, but at some point I had learned that some animals, when threatened, tried to make themselves bigger so a potential enemy would back down. If nothing less, I thought it might draw his attention and make me a target, rather than those less prepared. His watering, bloodshot gray eyes swung toward me, and he lifted the gun in my direction. The veins in his neck stood out and sweat poured down his pale face, making him look somewhere between sick and crazed. His finger tightened on the trigger, and the firearm roared. I'd never heard a sound like that in my life, and I reeled a little in instinctive response before charging him. I didn't think the shot had hit me, but I didn't wait to find out. Whatever happened to me didn't matter. I couldn't let him harm the people who were screaming and ducking for cover wherever they could behind me. Stop this! What is the point of such an act? I was almost in arm's reach when I saw his hand tense again, finger tightening to pull the trigger. The shot never came. Jim came barreling down the side hallway that led from the soup kitchen to the rest of the building. What in the name of God's glorious green creation do you think you are doing, boy? He barked, his tone all at once authoritative and demanding. Did I give you the authorization to pull that trigger? You will stand down and follow orders when you are facing a superior officer. Do I make myself clear? He drew himself up tall and straight in his chair, pointing at the elf in a manner that frankly intimidated me. And I wasn't on the receiving end of it. Now you will stop with the games, save that weapon, and sit your ass on the floor until told otherwise. The elf turned toward him, the hand with the firearm swinging in his direction just as my momentum carried me into him and slammed him into the door. I grabbed the firearm and yanked it away from him with very little effort, ejecting the magazine and the chambered round without really thinking about it. The weapon was part of me for that moment, and I knew everything I needed to about it. Weapons were one of the few things that made perfect, clear sense to me, and I didn't need to think to comprehend them. I could let my hands do their work and keep my attention on other things. In that moment, where I was removing the firearm as a threat, the elf squirmed away from me and rushed at Jim. I dropped the gun to go help him, but in that space of time, Jim had pulled a handheld black box from somewhere I didn't notice, and as soon as his assailant closed on him, he rammed it into the other man's ribs. There was a buzzing, cracking sound, and the elf started making noises I couldn't quite quantify for a few seconds before collapsing to the ground. I didn't have much time to register what had happened before the door beside me opened to admit a second person, also with the same wild look in their eyes. This time it was a woman, and she too had a gun, albeit a smaller one. She stood just outside my reach, the weapon trained on me as she looked around the place. "Connor!" she yelled, her voice high and tight. I shook my head, crowding her space a little while keeping my wings splayed to block her view of everyone else in the space. "Put the gun down," I said, keeping my voice as calm as I could. I still couldn't reach the firearm, and if she chose to pull that trigger, I doubted she'd miss. "There is no need for that here. Nobody is going to hurt you." "Where's Connor?" she demanded, punctuating the statement by thrusting the gun at me as though it would make it more dangerous. "I do not know who Connor is, so I do not know where he is. He's all that matters." I moved toward her slowly, trying to get in range to take the weapon from her, but I kept my hands forward and up. While I am not a good liar, and have never been, the feint was well within my power. "I see. Perhaps if you put the gun down, we can find him together." She yelled something incoherent and stepped forward. Her body language warned me she was about to fire, so I closed on her, grabbing the firearm and pushing it upward to point at the ceiling. In that same moment, a line of fiery pain erupted along the side of my head that almost made me let go, but I managed to fight through it and held her arms up as she emptied the magazine into the ceiling. When she'd unloaded the gun, I used the full force of my strength to crush it in my hand. While it didn't fall apart or any such thing, it was definitely no longer usable. I had damaged the barrel and slide enough that they would no longer move over one another and allow the weapon to fire. Not without exploding. The woman continued to scream, releasing the gun and launching herself at me to try and claw me. While I cut one hand, she caught me across the face with the other, before I could control her flailing limbs. The scratches hurt, but they had done no real damage. However, the wound along the side of my scalp bled heavily. Wet heat poured down my face and neck into my shirt collar and dripped off my chin onto the floor, making the tired, old yellow tiles slick. Even with her arms held, she tried to bite me like a feral beast, and somewhere in her frantic, crazed eyes, I caught a glimpse of something. I couldn't quite place it, but some part of me recognized the expression on instinct. I didn't linger on the thought, continuing to try and fend her off until Jim rolled over and used his black box on her. When he did, I yelped and let go almost instantly as the force of a great deal of electricity slammed through where I had held her in my hands. The moment I released her, the sensation lessened. She collapsed to the floor, unmoving, and I sagged a little, the adrenaline starting to give way to pain as blood poured over my skin. I put a hand out and leaned on the wall to steady myself, as dizziness filled me. Jim touched my elbow. "Let me see." He then turned his head, bellowing into the room. "Somebody get me a towel, now." His tone returned to that harsh, sharp one he'd used on the first attacker, though it softened when he addressed me again. "Sit down, Cass. Sit down before you fall." I obeyed, sinking to the floor and closing my eyes. "Room's spinning," I said, my voice coming out as a slur. That, and I felt a bone-deep cold swallow me. My muscles tensed and shivered. Something touched my head and I jumped, grabbing for the thing with abrupt force. My hand found a forearm, and I gripped into it with the points of my fingers, seeking for control. Despite it having to hurt, Jim didn't pull the towel away from my head. "You're okay, soldier, I've got you. Help's coming, just breathe." Cassiel, breathe. When I realized who and what it was, I let go and tried to follow Jim's advice. But despite the slow, deep breaths, my heart felt like it was going to pound out of my chest. My head hurt so much I worried I'd vomit, and I had only done that a couple of times and didn't relish the idea of doing so again. The piercing wail of a siren outside made me grimace, and I became dimly aware of people descending on us, but the commotion washed over me like a tremendous blend of roaring sound. I had vague memories of Jim telling me he'd follow me soon, whatever that meant, and then nothing. If you want to hear what the rest of it is, you're going to have to read the book. So, thank you. That is the part that I had chosen to share. I do have a couple of other things that I want to talk about before I get into the painting and Q&A and chat. Thank you so much, Janice. And yes, Jim is in fact one of my husband's characters. And so the thing that I'm really excited about is I'm actually pairing with Pop Fission. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they are an excellent bath bomb company. And the owner and I have been friends for a really long time. And he and I are coming together to make a limited run series of bath bombs that are going to be based on the book. So the scent, shape, and maybe something surprising in the middle are all based on the series. So the intent is that you can soak in the bath and enjoy your book while kind of literally immersing yourself in the book. That is going to be available through my website. And I'm really excited about it. The bath bombs he makes are excellent. They are really high quality materials, and Pop Fission, they're a wonderful company. And so I'm really excited about this. It's going to be available through my website and paired with a signed physical print of the book. So that's how you're going to get a hold of one of these. It's going to be about $30 because the signed copies that I'm sharing through my website are a little bit more than the retail price. And then there's going to be shipping involved for both the bath bomb and the book. And so that it's going to be a little higher, but the usual price on my book is $14.99. The signed copies are $17.99 because I have to get them shipped to me first, and then I have to sign them and send them to you. And the bath bombs, they normally sell for about $10, so it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be around $30. I haven't quite put a number on it yet. It's going to be going live on the website in the next day or so. So I'm really excited about that, and it should be a really fun way to celebrate the launch. Hello, Bardo. It's nice to see you. And thank you for joining us. For those of you who are here, thank you for coming. I'm really excited to have you here. I have been really nervous about this launch because it's sort of like sending your kid to school for the first time. You're pretty sure you raised them right, and you're hoping they won't bite anybody, but you know it's possible. So, yes, Jason just shared the Universal Book link. So if you click that, you'll be able to go to the retailer of your choice to purchase a copy. And, oh, I'm so sorry that that's still buffering for you. But hopefully this should, it should be pretty smooth, I'm hoping.
Do you have a link for Pop Fission?
Do I have a link for Pop Fission? No, but I should get one. That would make sense and have been smart. Let me grab a link to Pop Fission's store. Even outside of, I'll share it in the chat, even outside of my launch and my book that I'm doing, he has excellent products, and I'm really excited to be working with him. He makes wonderful things. Pastor Carla, I appreciate it. This is recording, so can you type in the chat that this is going to be recorded for later? And yes, Pop Fission's bath bombs are beautiful, and Nikolai is a really close friend of mine, so I'm glad to be sharing his business. The thing I'm wearing around my neck, you may not be able to see. It is a chainmail D20 capture that was a gift from a dear friend of mine. It's kind of my good luck charm. I have it on the 20 side. It's got 20 and 1. I was wearing the 1 forward earlier, and Jay was like, "You are inviting bad luck, so maybe don't." So I decided to switch it around to have the nat 20. So yes, that is I love that. Yeah, I need to. That's what I was thinking. Like, if I put the 1 out, it's gonna like ward off the bad luck and drain all the bad rolls. But we'll see what happens. Maybe the 20 will invite good ones. I don't know. I'm not sure there's a downside to either direction here. So, we'll find out, I guess, as tonight goes on. So I'm going to switch over to the watercolor painting that I'm going to be working on.
Hold on.
Oh no, hold on. I'm holding on. I'm holding. Wait. My husband told me to hang on, so I guess I'm waiting. It's time. I don't know what it's time for.
We have a special surprise for you
Okay.
from your mother and I.
Okay.
If you want to stand up, it's on my chair.
Apparently there's a surprise for me that way, so I'll be behind the curtain for a second. And I don't think he's gonna dance, but if he does, that would be an excellent surprise. Okay.
Make sure to open it on.
I'm coming. I have a large box of mystery that I don't know what's inside, so I'm going to, I think it opens this way.
You just lay it flat and open the flaps.
I can't lay it flat because I've not gotten nowhere flat.
Put it over here.
I can open it angled up. It's big. I'm working on it. Going to move this off. More boxes for the cats to play with. In his bag. Oh. Oh, this is excellent. No, this is actually a poster of the cover of my book. Oh, thank you. That is beautiful. The resolution on that came out really amazing.
It's canvas.
Yeah, it's a canvas print. Oh, thank you. That is absolutely gorgeous. Oh my gosh, yes. So, I'm gonna set this aside because I have nowhere to put it there that won't get in trouble. Wow.
I figured you'd put it back in the box.
Well, the box is that direction somewhere, so I'll have to get it at some point. Yeah, that's...
Don't want the cats to walk.
I don't think they're probably going to.
Okay.
Sultan is, yeah, he's still in the other box over there. Wow. Yes, monitor lizards would be an excellent gift, but probably not gonna come in a box from Staples. And if they do, I have serious concerns. Wow, thank you. That's gorgeous, and I have to find a place to put it. Wow, I was not expecting that. My husband is sneaky. No, I would not expect one for every launch. No, and no, I don't think a monitor lizard would get along with the cats. I think that would end poorly at best. I think monster would probably cause problems. I'm going to risk showing you my messy desk because the cat in question who would cause problems is over there in the cat bed. You can see her feet on the other side of the camera. She is a cat of questionable humor, by which I mean likely to bite things at all times. Of course, now that I have moved the camera, I have to readjust it. I have regrets. Okay, well, I am going to do some painting. If anybody would like to buy the book while I am doing this, I will give you a special shout out and say thank you while you do it if you let me know.
Do you want any of the giveaway links or anything?
Yeah, if you want to share the giveaway links again to anybody who might not have been here yet. Share all the links except the mystery one. I have a writing Discord. Some of the folks here are actually from that, and we hang out every week, and I give lessons on writing and so on, and sometimes we have guests who share their lessons and experience. I've got some experienced authors, I've got newbies, so you might want to identify what those links are when you send them to. So right now, what I'm looking at here is I'm working on a D&D map. So when I asked him what I should make, my husband said he wanted me to do a fortress on a hill with like something rural down below. So I've got some fields over here, a little town. This is a river. And we've got a fortress overlooking it. I'm not sure exactly what colors all of these things are going to be, so if anybody has suggestions, please let me know. I'm probably not going to do the trees pink, though. That's you know, an unlikely thing. The link there, the general link, that is to my link tree. To anybody who doesn't know where I am on social media, that is where you can find me. Also, it has links to my author website and various other places. I spend a lot of time these days on TikTok, probably more than I should. So that's a thing. Red trees, thank you. I hang out there probably more than I ought to, and my hashtag on there that I use is salty editor, which is true because I look for various different. I usually am posting about things that annoy me that I see on various different writing things. Yep, oh, that's the fan Discord. Yes, I have two different Discords. I have my writing Discord, and I am starting a fan Discord for people who are not writers but want to be able to connect with me. If you have questions about my writing or just want to say hi or want to get involved, I'm planning on doing some like Jackbox games in there at some point. That is, that's a thing I have intentions to do. I haven't gotten there yet. And yet, where is Spicy Editor and Umami Editor? Well, I guess that's a good question. Spicy, I think Spicy and Salty are probably about the same as far as content goes, because I do get kind of spicy. Umami Editor, that's usually when I'm giving advice, I think. Disc Sword. Dick Sword. Fun. Hello, Cactus Knives. Nice to see you. So, yeah, that is, I don't have a huge, like, crazy thing planned. I've been doing a lot of the watercolor painting lately, and this seemed like it would be an enjoyable way to spend my launch. And since I'm at this point, I am going to announce that super secret third giveaway. And the third giveaway, which hasn't been announced anywhere else except this moment, so if you're watching this live, congratulations. I am actually going to be giving away this map that I am painting right now. And this is going to be available to anywhere because international shipping for a piece of paper is not high enough to forestall me. So Jay, if you can share the, that. Thank you so much, yet another Jim. I appreciate you, you coming to hang out. And Jason Felt, just shared the third giveaway link, so if you would like to get in on that, and that is going to be open until midnight. All of these giveaways are, but the super secret one is only going to be available to people who saw this live, because this video probably is not going to be going up on YouTube until after midnight. So if you would like this map, then you are going to be part of a very small number of people who are interested in this. I don't have any idea about, like, the name of this town. Oh, I do. I named the town Taranth. It's down in the corner. But I don't know much about the town. But if you are interested in maps or like watercolors or just want something fun from me, then please sign up for that. And if nobody keeps it, if nobody gets this thing, well, I'm just going to use it in my D&D campaign at some point, because I've been slowly putting together a bunch of maps. If you don't know what my maps look like and want to know what you're getting before you end up with some kind of disaster, that's not it. This is the one that I made on live stream last night. I'm not sure I'm entirely done with it, but it came out quite pretty. Yeah, if you win it, yes, you're going. Well, I'm kind of expecting that Jeff there may end up jumping on this, but yes, this is one of the maps I made yesterday. I made this one a little while ago. So this is kind of what you can expect. The shape and size of this paper is a little different. So there's that. I also do landscape watercolors just for fun. So this is one of the hobbies I have that aren't writing related. I have a few of those, but not a ton, because I'm sort of obsessed with the whole writing thing. As you may have guessed, what with me putting out a book. If anybody has any questions about the book, or questions for me as an author, or questions about the series or the setting, feel free to ask and I will answer while I am working on this. So please feel free to jump in the chat and interact. I would love to hear from you. One thing I will say is this is planned to be the beginning of a significantly sized series. The way I'm thinking about structuring it is sort of the way that the MCU did, is I'm going to have a number of different point of view characters who come in and out of the series. Various different books will be in different points of view. And so you're going to end up seeing a lot of them. And then some of the books, I'll pull the various different POV characters together, and then they'll be going back their separate ways. So that's sort of how I want to plan this to be structured. Il Lemur, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, but you asked where I draw inspiration from. The first time I thought about doing this particular series was when I watched the Netflix movie Bright. I really enjoyed it, and I had never seen a show or any kind of situation where there was just magic everywhere and it was commonplace. And I really enjoyed that, because most of the time, magic in... Oh, it's Jonathan! Nice to see you! Most of the time, the urban fantasy world, you have people hiding magic, and nobody's supposed to know it, so all of the supernatural creatures are hidden, and it's this big secret. You know, think, come on, brain. World of Darkness, or, you know, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. People aren't supposed to know, or Charmed, or all these other things where magic exists in the world, or even in the Dresden Files, people aren't supposed to know about magic. And I kind of wanted to go a different way. I decided, you know, I'd like people to know about magic, because generally speaking, I am a high fantasy writer. Most of the books that I have worked on and planned and written, not that they've been published, but written, are high fantasy. And I decided to bring a little bit of that into the urban fantasy realm also, because it felt like it was something different and something fun that I didn't get to see very much of, and I wanted to see more of. So there's this suggestion that goes around in various different writing groups of write the book you'd want to read. If you want to see something happen in a genre, well, go write it. And so that's what I did, more or less. and that's how I ended up at the place I was. Obviously, Jay had a huge hand in helping design the world and the setting and the characters, and that was really important for me. Hey Tanya, nice to see you. And yes, that is absolutely the case. Jay and I developed this initially as a roleplay setting for us, and it kind of turned into a book series, so here it is. Ellie, the question about the muse, it came up with just the idea of having magic be commonplace in a world. So Jay and I have been doing roleplay on and off for many, many years. That's how we met, because we're huge nerds. And at one point, we had put together this urban fantasy setting with all these characters, and it was set in Boston, but it was the classic urban fantasy of nobody knows about magic. It has to stay hidden. People can't, if anybody finds out about magic, then it's going to be problematic, and the world isn't ready for it, and it was that sort of thing. And after watching Bright, I was like, I really want to explore what would happen otherwise. And so that's where this came from. And Jay and I have been playing and creating characters in this world for, I don't know how many years now, like 4 or 5 now, Jay? You think? Yeah, something like 4 or 5. And so we've been just exploring these concepts, and a lot of the books I write and the stories I write come out of the role plays we have, because that is where my muse hangs out. And it also gives me a chance to test run things. So if I come up with an idea and I'm like, ooh, I want to try this character or this setting or something, I'll start something with Jay, and if it's profoundly stupid, then nobody else needs to know about it. Except him, and he can laugh at me forever. And he will, because that's what partners are for. What made me decide to turn it into a novel? Well, I thought that the setting and the characters would be really conducive to a novel series, and would be a novel series that I could write that would be enjoyable, that other people would like. So people beyond just Jay and I. And I talked to him about it, and I had it was nano time, and I was deciding, what to work on, and I decided to work on this for nano, I think 2020. I never usually beat nano because I don't like rushing myself the way you have to, and I find it really damages the quality of my writing. And so it's not really conducive to my process. And also with my migraines and everything, I have to take days off more so than a lot of people. And so I didn't win nano, but I did start turning this into a really solid book. The character Cassiel, who's the main character of this, I actually developed her for a role play in a different setting and brought her over to the urban fantasy setting because I liked the character so much. And to be honest, playing Cassiel was one of the reasons I discovered I was non-binary, because the more I played her, the more I understood pieces and parts about myself. So this character is really important to me, just my own life and journey. And I thought that people would really like her, and I'd played her with other folks. I roleplay online, and everybody had always really liked her, so she got quite popular. Hey Randall, nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I've had a lot of characters who have had that effect on me over the years. There's a character whose novel series I'm eventually going to write. Ellie is going to know who I'm talking about. She's read most of the first book. I need to go back and edit it, but it is a novel based on a character named Archimedes, who was the roleplay character I was playing when I met my husband. And he had a huge effect on my life, not because of the gender or anything, but because the way he approaches problems and the way he interacts with the world. He's always been very logical, and he's a chess player above all things, like mental chess. And I really needed a kind of that sort of approach to things in the world, because I didn't have that in myself. and playing him and experiencing the world through his eyes and kind of putting myself in the shoes of somebody who had entirely different problems helped me to create more of who I wanted to be and helped shape my personality. And that was one of the things that I really took out of that character. I'm going to be writing his novel series at some point. I have the first book written, but I really need to do a lot of heavy editing on it. And I needed to do more world building because I sort of world built as I went, which doesn't really lend itself well to a great deal of logic, and it kind of just wandered off into the weeds. So I really need to go back and think about the setting information. I have the setting. That world is that one's high fantasy. So you've got fairies and princes and medieval period type stuff, and I have the fairy world all worked up, and that series is going to be mostly about fae. But the end result is I needed to work more on the human world setting because I didn't really have it clear in my head, and so I just sort of, they went places and did things, and there was no real logic to it. Yeah, so Lead, you've always had the opposite problem. You world build until suddenly a story jumps out. And I wrote a story and realized later that no, I should probably put more attention into the setting than I had. Even if it's just really light world building. It doesn't need to be hard world building, it could be soft, but I needed more than I had. So that was the first full novel that I finished writing. As an adult, we're not going to talk about the 40-page one I wrote in high school that I was so proud of at the time. I was so proud of it, guys. So proud. It was 40 pages long in Word, that was huge. And yeah, that's definitely a thing that Jay and I do. Like, ooh, I have this character I want to try. Here we go. Yeah, and yeah, it's sort of the Jim Butcher route where start in urban fantasy, go back to fantasy, go to urban fantasy, maybe steampunk someday. But I have a cyberpunk novel that I've written that I eventually will probably put out into the world, but that needs again more work. I wrote it before I did a lot of the studying I've done on structure, so it's a little bit less focused than I would like it to be, and I really need to again do some world building on it because I came up with some ideas and I had some plans, but I didn't really flesh them out as much as I should have. So the world building on that is really loose, which is why we ended up with Fallen coming out first, because it is I didn't need to do as much world building in some ways, because it is set in modern day Boston. So I didn't need to build an entire world and everything. Is there rural fantasy? Yes, but it's not a genre. So the setting for Fallen, I mean, there's a lot of world building in it, but I didn't need to come up with, like, logistics as much, because this is the modern world, so the characters are going to be driving cars and using cell phones, and it's set in Boston, so if I want to go exploring my setting, if I want to go understand something, I can either pull up Google Maps and do a virtual tour, which I have done a lot during COVID, or I can drive down there myself and go to the places that are important in the novel. For book 2, there is a large segment of it that takes place at Old North Church in Boston, which is, those of you who aren't familiar with it, is a famous and important historical landmark. And while I couldn't go there myself during lockdown, I would like to go before book 2 releases, just so I can make sure the scenes I wrote there are logical, but I connected with one of the people who works there, and I had her describe some certain things to me and give me some information. And so I was able to get data about this place, even if I couldn't physically go there. And I use Google Maps and I use that kind of thing a lot because since I am both poor and disabled, traveling to all the places I write about is not really an option for me as much as I would like to. So I settle for traveling virtually by means of using the various different features of Google Maps. So shout out to them, I guess, for making it possible for me to visit places I can't go in real life, which is pretty neat. Does it take? Does one? I don't know if anyone kills a vegan vampire with a stake to a heart, and I don't even know if you could have a vegan vampire.
Yeah, steak fire.
No, you're fired. You're fired. Out of a cannon into the sun. Um. So, are there any other questions about like the setting or the characters or anything or the series if you'd like to know more about that? Like obviously I'm not going to spoil things, but I would be happy to give more information about the series. I have written up to book 3. I'm in the middle of book 3 right now, as far as the writing of it goes. And book 3 is not about Cassiel, so book 2 is. She's still the main character, but book 3 is about another character named Snow, who is a former CIA agent. I'm not going to get too deep into that story, because it would be spoilery, but I have she's a former CIA agent who's trying to figure out some shady stuff going on. And obviously getting in over her head, because where else would the story come from? That character's also dealing with physical disability, which is the thing that matters to me. Yeah, I guess I can talk about that, Jay. So, I am, those of you who don't know, I think everybody in chat here knows me, but I am physically disabled. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which means that my joints just at random fall out of my sockets, which is quite painful. I'm actually in the process of heading towards getting the second surgery of this year to fix an issue with my shoulder refusing to stay in place, which is very stressful for me. And I oftentimes see disabled characters in books sort of treated almost as set pieces, and there aren't enough characters who are disabled without being, I don't know, like, they're fixed in some way. So when I say that, I mean, like, as much as I like the character Daredevil from Marvel, he's blind, but now I've only watched the TV show, but it doesn't really affect him in a huge way to some extent because he can still see because of his super hearing. So while he can't see things physically, he can still be able to fight in combat as he does without any kind of anything inhibiting him. And that's something I've found kind of frustrating. Charles Xavier, yes, but he is confined to his wheelchair, and while his brain is really functional, his body isn't. So he's kind of an exception. And the another really good example of a well-done character with a disability, or a series of them, was the Hawkeye TV show dealing with hard of hearing folks. I felt that was excellent, but there's not as much of that as I wish there was. And so I decided to write and include disabled characters who are exceptional badasses. So there are a number of characters in the books who are going to be various different types of physically disabled. And there are some characters who have, for example, autism and other such things, which are going to be part of that. I am not diagnosed, but we suspect that I have autism. I am diagnosed as ADHD. So these are things that matter to me, and I'm sort of, in some ways, representing myself. There are also characters in my series who have severe PTSD, and that's going to be something that I deal with because a lot of these books and a lot of the shows and so on, they'll have characters go through incredibly traumatic experiences, but then they're just fine afterwards. The first time that I saw really powerful PTSD representation was in Iron Man 3, when Tony Stark was really fighting with the post-traumatic stress disorder after New York. And I hadn't really seen that done in movies before. Like, it did something to my feels, as somebody who has post-traumatic stress. To see it portrayed that way, and not just as somebody in the military having it and just, like, having flashbacks to a war situation, because obviously PTSD is more than just that. And that really, really mattered to me. And yeah, I definitely find it frustrating when the goal for the disabled character is to quote-unquote fix them. I mean, I'm not going to say that I am averse to characters having things help them, or a character who's been disabled getting help in some way, or getting magically healed in some way. That won't anger me to some extent, but it shouldn't be the goal of the character. Because, disabled people, my goal isn't to not be disabled anymore. My goal is to live my life to the best I can with the conditions I have. And because they're never going to go away, they aren't going to get better. Ehlers-Danlos is a genetic condition over which I have no control. And so having a character who is disabled and they don't need to be fixed to be a complete badass. They don't need to be fixed in order to be an important part of the story. That is seriously important to me. And so that is one of the reasons why I have characters like Jim. So the character Jim in the novel, if you haven't read it yet, he is confined to a wheelchair because he lost his legs in combat. He is a combat veteran. And he is one of, and everybody who's read the book, all the pre-release folks agreed, he is one of everybody's favorites. He is an excellent character whom I love to death. And being in a wheelchair, while it does cause him some difficulties through the story, because, it's hard to run away from demons when you're in a wheelchair and the demons take the chair or break it, he doesn't have to be babied at any point. Just because he has to be maybe physically carried from one place to another, he at no point is considered to be weaker than anybody else. He's not less than any of the other characters, and in fact, he is instrumental to a number of things that happen in the book that nobody else can do. He has just as much value and importance to the story as everybody else. And that was important to me. I mean, while I'm not a veteran, and I can't in any way speak for disabled veterans, I can say disabled people deserve that kind of representation more, and deserve that kind of attention more, because so often the disabled characters are relegated to, like I said, more set pieces or background, or they're a MacGuffin, there's something to be fixed, rather than just a person who matters to the story and perhaps has some serious benefit to the story, even with their disabilities. And I'm not even necessarily going to say despite the disability, because that is implying that our disabilities make us less. And they don't. I am not less of an anything because of my Ehlers-Danlos. I am not less of an anything because of my PTSD or ADHD or autism. I am not less because of any of that stuff. I am equal to everybody else. I just operate differently or have different limitations, which doesn't bother me at all, because everybody has limitations. I mean, short people can't reach tall shelves, and that doesn't make them lesser. Thank you so much for coming, Lead. It was nice to see you. I really appreciate the support, and I will see you Saturday for the for group. So thank you. I look forward to seeing you then. So yeah, the disability representation part of my writing, I didn't go into this trying to be like, I'm going to represent the disabled people. The characters, my husband is also physically disabled, for those of you who don't know. He was in a car accident that damaged part of his spine, and it makes it difficult for him to do a lot of things. And Jim is actually his character. And the reality is we were just making interesting characters who we felt filled spaces in the story, and whether they were disabled, whether they were abled, whether they were straight or gay or non-binary, it didn't really matter to us. We were making interesting characters for stories. And that is one of the things, like, I don't go out of my way to try and drive representation, but at the same time, my characters are going to be reflections of myself and my experiences and my beliefs. And I am not an able-bodied person, and I am not a straight person, so my books are going to show that, and there are going to be characters like that in there. And I represent them the way that I like to see representation happen, in so much as they're just people living their lives. I don't... My strong female characters are strong characters first who are female. Now, maybe it's because I'm non-binary, but to me, gender and strength, I mean, just strong characters are strong characters, they're the same thing. And yeah, definitely, society does make accessibility difficult when it doesn't need to be. And I do address some of that. I also address some things in my books that are challenging. So I am a practicing Christian, but I critique the way a lot of people in the church, and I critique the church itself, the way that it behaves in the book series. And so you're going to see a commentary about the church that is not going to be super complimentary sometimes, because sometimes the church does bad things. You're also going to see characters who are part of that who are excellent, because ultimately these are people we're talking about. There are good people and bad people, so that'll be in there. And that is one of the things I kind of wanted to show, was people are people wherever they happen to be. You're going to find excellent ones, you're going to find awful ones, everywhere. In every walk of life, in every group, there are going to be wonderful individuals, and there are going to be individuals that you really wouldn't want to hang out with or get coffee with. Or maybe you don't want them to continue existing, I don't know. And yeah, write what you know is definitely a thing. So yes, some of this is definitely writing what I know, because I know what it's like to be a lot of different facets of what's in here and what's going to be in the series. Obviously, I don't know what it's like to be an ogre or an orc or an elf, but I can imagine. I don't use a wheelchair, so I had to base my understanding of Jim's struggles as a wheelchair user off of people I know who use them. But I do understand what it's like to be disabled. And I do understand what it's like to have PTSD, and I understand a lot of the various different things he goes through and experiences, so I'm still writing from my perspective and understanding, even if not everything about the character or the experience is something that I have experience with directly. I did have some folks read this who are more familiar with some of those issues, and they liked them. So I try to be, honest to what happens and what life is like for folks who are in those circumstances. If I don't have an experience myself, there's only so much I can do, but I can certainly ask people who do. And I can just consider that part of research for my book. Because yes, write what you know, but research what you don't is the other half of that quote that so rarely gets any air. Everyone just says write what you know. Well, if you don't know something, you can learn it, and then you'll be writing what you know. So that is a piece of writing advice. And kind of just segueing briefly into my writing group, those of you who may or may not be interested, I run one. Please contact me for more information regarding that if you're interested. We meet every so often and hang out and chat, which I'm excited for. Some folks in the chat are from there and hang out there. Does anybody else have any other questions? It's been about an hour. We're heading up toward the end of this. So I am going to talk a little bit about some of my future plans. Oh, you're about to see a cat. Ugh, monster. Thank you. No, sorry about that. I do have some future plans to create some writing classes that I'm going to be selling maybe through my website for writers who are trying to learn more and would like to understand the publishing industry a little bit better, because I kind of want to start with what is inherent in becoming an author. Because the most surprising thing for a lot of folks ends up being the business marketing end of stuff. It's not the writing itself that ends up stumping people. It is the marketing and realizing, oh no, I actually have to market this and sell it somehow. And who am I going to sell this to? How am I going to get this in front of them? This isn't going to be so much marketing advice as it is going to be just telling people when you publish a book, it's more than just signing a contract and then the publisher does all the work. And so I'm thinking about running some classes like that about how to be an author and what it means to become one. So I'm thinking of doing some stuff like that. I have some plans to do some local events as COVID allows, doing some reading at some libraries and so on, and maybe some co-events with some other authors like Tanya. I know you're out there. She is going to be launching one of her books very shortly through the same publishing company that I am working with, and so I'm hoping that we can do some events together when it is safe to do so. So I'll be talking about some of that. That's also going to be things you find in my newsletter. If I'm going to be doing any events, you will be hearing about it there first. So if you are interested in keeping up with me, my newsletter is probably the best way. It goes out twice a month, once on the 15th and once on the 30th. This month I held off, I'm sending it out a little early because, the book launch, that's slightly important. And I wanted to make sure that the folks on the newsletter got first crack at the giveaways, because that is actually one of the benefits. If I'm doing a giveaway or if I'm doing like the bath bombs and stuff, I'm going to be announcing it through my newsletter first, which means that the folks who are part of that are going to have the first opportunity to get that information and do some of that. Oh, Tanya, you don't need to hide. I mean, your book isn't out yet, so I'm not gonna yell at you. And that's that. I mean, books have a long shelf life, so you've got time. Your book doesn't come out till next book doesn't come out till March. I know you've got other ones, but the next one doesn't come out till March. So, but yeah, that the benefit of joining the newsletter is going to be keeping up with a lot of those giveaways and events and such, or special things. I'm also going to be sharing like short stories and other such things through there. So if you would like to read some more of my writing or read more about the setting information in between books, see some short stories around, that might be something that you might enjoy. So just as a shout out there, I tend to be unobtrusive. Like I said, it's only twice a month, so I don't tend to put out machine gun emails, and you're not going to be getting peppered with me trying to hard sell anything. Most of it is between the two is the writing advice one for authors, and then the fun stuff for readers. So my hope is I try and make it enjoyable for folks to read, not, just hammering people over the head with buy my book, because frankly nobody wants that. I mean, I don't want that. If I was in an author newsletter, I would not enjoy that. What's the timeline of Fallen? It is set in, I don't have a year stated because I don't want to date the book, but it is more or less modern times. Current. I don't address the pandemic in this book because it isn't part of my story, and so I didn't really want to include it in my story, because it's not part of the plot, so I didn't really feel as though it would be beneficial to include it. So but it's more or less current times. The technology you see and everything is what you expect for the current day and age.
There's another question right above that.
Another question right above that. From you?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, world building questions. So the way I have the setting, it is not like Shadowrun, where the creatures of magic just showed up after being hidden. They've actually just been in the world forever. Everybody knows they're there. They've just been part of it. And it's just daily life for folks. So that is one of the elements of this that I enjoyed, was that it is just everyday magic. Because I don't feel like there's much out there that does that. There's far more of the hidden world sort of magic usage by writers, which is fine. I enjoy those books too. I mean, I'm a huge Dresden Files fan, so I'm not critiquing it by any stretch of the imagination. But I wanted to do something a little different. And so that's where this came out of. And when I first started the roleplay, that's what I was looking for. It's like, we've done the whole magic and hiding thing forever. Let's try something different. And we did, and it proved to be a great deal of fun. And then it kind of turned into what has become Fallen. I had intended this to be about an hour long. It's been a little over that. I'm going to hang out and paint for a little while longer, but I appreciate everybody coming, and I kind of want to do a quick thanks. So there are a few people I would like to specifically thank for all of their help and their presence with this book. I want to thank my husband, Jay. Obviously, he would not, the series wouldn't exist without him. He wrote a number of the characters. He created, elements of the world with me, like we did all of this together. And so first off, obviously, acknowledgements to him. Second off, I know this is probably going to sound trite, but I really want to thank my mom. She is the reason I am a reader and the reason why I became an author. When I was a little kid, she started me on chapter books by reading me The Hobbit. And then after that, immediately we went over to Anne McCaffrey's Pern series. Like, that was my introduction to reading. My mom has always been a huge nerd, and she grew up, she taught me how to nerd, basically. My house was full of Star Trek, Star Wars, Anne McCaffrey. It was, we were just absolutely full of books, and my mom spent a lot of time reading to me as a kid, and so I really want to credit her with a lot of this. Next off, I would like to thank my friend Rich. He's my business partner at Insomnia Publishing. He is one of the main reasons why Insomnia exists. And without him, none of this would be happening. So a huge thanks to Rich. We have been friends for a really long time, and his friendship and his encouragement and his belief in me has always been extremely important to me. So thank you so, so much. Thank you, Rich. I see you out there. Then Mel, my editor, she is a longtime, really good friend of mine, and we've been working together doing writing and editing projects for a long time, and she's always been really supportive and positive, and I really appreciate her and all the work she did on Fallen. And so thank you to Mel. Very specifically, she's been instrumental in making all this happen. And she is an excellent editor. If anybody's looking for one, I cannot speak highly enough of her. She does a really good job. And she's just a really incredible person, so I love her to pieces. She is a delight to work with. Then I've got some folks who've been really, really supporting me through all of this, who've been right there with me, who've been like there at Oh God 30 when I'm freaking out about oh my God, did I upload this to the right place? Oh no, did I have this plot hole? Has everything gone wrong? Yep, that is going to be one of the folks I thank. So I want to thank Leslie Heath for being an incredible friend through all of this. She is another author, and she is an excellent writer, and she is a tremendous person, and she has been holding my hand through all of this, like, hey, how you doing in launch week? Has your head exploded yet? And have you made your tagline yet? And also, tolerating my kicking and screaming. Next to her, of course, also is my cover artist, Angel, who did just the most amazing job on my cover. Her covers are wonderful. Her writing is wonderful. Same with Leslie. So Angel Leia, Angel Leya. She is an excellent cover designer, and her young adult books are great. She's a wonderful author and a good friend. And Leslie, she writes also wonderful young adult fantasy novels. She's getting ready to release, she's working on an audiobook. She has a Kickstarter that I should probably mention for her novel that is coming out very shortly. The novel is called The Draganaxy Challenge, and I'm a big fan of it. I think it's going to be a really excellent book. It is dragons and mermaids and all sorts of neat stuff, so I really want to give her a shout out. Let me grab the link for that. If I can find it. I know it's on here. Come here, author page. Come here. Load. Yeah, so she's doing a, let me see if I can find it. Ugh. You hit it on me. There it is.
All your beta readers.
I'm going to. So the pre-order, I don't know where her Kickstarter went, but the pre-order for her book that's up for the Draganaxy Challenge is here, and I think that it should be something that everybody reads and enjoys. She does, it's just wonderful. I can't find her Kickstarter number. Where are you? Fine, let's look at Kickstarter itself. We'll be that way. I'd also like to thank Jace Carter for her support. Jace has been a friend of mine for a really long time, and her books are absolutely excellent. And she also has been one of the folks who's been like, are we breathing? Have you exploded? As I've been getting ready for launch, because while I have launched dozens of books as a publisher and as an editor, this was the first time that I'd done it for myself, and I've done a lot of panicking about that. There it is. This is the Kickstarter for Draganaxy Challenge's ebook, and it has until the end of the month, so I strongly suggest you check that out. And I know Jace Carter launched a book recently. She writes erotic romance and is just an excellent human being. I want to thank my friend Matt. He has been also kind of holding me together through all of this, like glue. One of my best friends, and I really appreciate him. Lexi Naro, she has been a staunch and really excited supporter since the beginning when I started assembling a street team. So thank you to Lexi, Josh, also really good friend of mine, long time, really big supporter, and huge thank you to my sisters, Janice and Linda. Again, they did my nails. They do Nat 20 nails. They have been obviously some of my biggest fans. They read the book before it was finished and have been just screaming about it to everybody. So thank you, both of you. Obviously, I love you and you mean the world to me. Yeah. Thank you to Nikolai of Pop Vision for doing the bath bomb thing with me. I'm going to be announcing more of that on my author pages pretty soon, so look for that. So I think that's the main list of folks that I wanted to say thank you to.
Oh, seems like we can't do that.
Oh, no, we can do that. Thank you, though. I think I woke up my phone somehow, and I can't do that, Dave, I guess. And thank you to everybody who has turned out and joined the chat and hung out with me. I really appreciate you. Thank you for making this possible. And a huge thank you to those who pre-ordered the book. I'm really excited about this. And yes, thank you to Chains of Heart, which is my husband's project. It's been kind of quiet for a while, but yes, the dice bag, if you weren't here early on when I showed it off, this is one of the giveaway items. It is a chainmail dice bag. This is stainless steel. It holds about 10 sets of dice. And it is perfect for a D&D nerd. The giveaway for this is limited to people who live in the United States because of shipping. So I'm sorry that I can't ship it internationally, but it is quite heavy. So it would be very expensive to ship elsewhere. And the I love your face too, Tanya. So this is a really beautiful dice bag. The giveaways are going to be live until midnight Eastern Standard Time. So if you haven't signed up yet, it is not too late. And that is that's more or less what I've got. I'm gonna let's see. I'm gonna switch over here to that. Yes, I definitely miss hanging out with you at the Dragon, Tanya, but we're gonna find some time to get together and hang out at some point soon. Yes, Jay, can you pop up the links one more time so everybody gets a chance to see them? Including like there's a universal book link, so if you click on that, you can choose the retailer of your choice to buy a copy of your book. If you would like to buy an author copy, my personal website is where you're going to find that to buy an author signed copy. They are $17.99 plus shipping. Let me pull that link up since I didn't think I wasn't smart enough to pull up a direct one for that. Sometimes my brain she does not do the thing. Thank you, Nicole. I really appreciate you. Thank you for being so supportive. Let's see if I can pull up my website. Let's just do it this way. That should work. So there is the link to the shop on my website with the author signed copies and the bath bomb pre-order. There are going to be 30 of them at the moment. There are only going to be 30. So if you would like one of those, they're probably going to go really fast, so you're going to want to get that. The books are currently being ordered from Ingram. I have to wait for them to ship to me. I do have a number that I have to send out that have been claimed before launch by local friends, family, and other folks who've been really excited who wanted signed copies. So I'm going to be doing a second order really soon. But if you do order, please recognize that I'm going to have to kind of do this in order, and it might take a little bit. If you have questions, message me. But if you would like a signed copy of the book, that is how you get one. If you just want a copy of the book to read, it is available pretty much anywhere books are sold. So wherever you get your ebooks or print books, you can get it through Amazon, you can get it through Barnes & Noble, you can get the ebook through Kobo, Apple, Google, a bunch of different places. So just search for E. Perbilski and the word Fallen, and you'll find it that way. Thank you, Jay, for helping moderate. Thank you, Avernus, for helping moderate. I really appreciate your help. And so this is the, yep, there's the links again. So those of you who are watching this later on YouTube, the links will be in the description. Though the giveaway links are going to be over at midnight tonight on the 13th of January, so those probably aren't going to be in the description, but all of the other buy links and information will be available. I really appreciate the time that everybody took to hang out with me tonight. I was really anxious before this launch. I've been really stressed out about it for a couple of weeks and doing like all this last second, you know, chicken with my head cut off kind of planning, running around like a crazy thing, trying to get all this done. So I think I'm going to call it here. I'm going to finish off this watercolor piece that I'm going to be giving away to a lucky person. I love you too, honey. Good night. Yes, go walk Energy Dog. So good night. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you. Thank you for making this special for me. And thank you for joining me on this journey. I look forward to getting book 2 finished, and that I'm hoping should be ready by the end of this year. So keep an eye out. It's not going to be forever until we're doing this again. I will talk to you soon, and have a wonderful night. Like the best possible night you can. Thank you. Bye.